So if you don't complain, see, when you're complaining, there's no faith there. When you're complaining, there is pride there. Pride causes people to complain. Why should I have to go through this? Why is this happening to me? I don't like this. You know. Nobody wants to hear that. God doesn't want to hear that. I think it even irritates the devil, even though he generates it. Nobody wants to hear it. And people do enough of that, they start to get mad at themselves. You don't even like it. All right? But if you honor God, do the best, wherever you find yourself, wherever God put you, make the best of that. Glorify God in it. Magnify Him. Now, concerning virgins, you know, there are fewer and fewer of them in our day and age, aren't there? When I was in high school back in 1967, 68, there were 2 couples as students that we knew were illicitly involved with each other. Nobody else. It's probably the other way around in schools now. It's that bad. Now concerning virgins, I have no commandment of the Lord, yet I give my judgment as one that hath obtained mercy of the Lord to be faithful. I suppose, therefore, that this is good for the present distress. I say that it is good for a man so to be. Again, to remain a virgin, remain unmarried. What does he mean? The present distress. Because of what they were going through with the Roman Empire at that time, and all the trouble that was happening in the world. And boy, if they had it back then, have we got it now? Yes. It is a present distress, isn't it? While I was working on this newsletter and finding all these things that are going on, I'll tell you, you know, back in the middle of December, I had predicted on worldwide radio that health care bill would pass during the time of the witches' Sabbath at Yule. That some people call Christmas, Baal's birthday. All right? Sure enough, on the 24th, the senators came in with their suitcases, couldn't wait to get to the airport, rushed through the vote, railroaded this thing through. And they did it so fast that even Senator Harry Reid, primary proponent of the bill, when it was his turn to vote, stood up and said, "Nay!" And there was silence, and then everybody busted out laughing. And then he changed his vote, which you can't do, but he did it anyway. Otherwise, he would have defeated his own bill. Yeah. And so they railroaded this thing through 60 to 39, and they ran off to the airport to go home so they could unwrap their presents from under the tree. That is real dedication to your work, isn't it? Of course, who's going to read over 2,000 pages weighing 20.5 pounds that would be brought in on a cart? How'd you like to have somebody put something like that on your desk and say, read it? Over 2,000 pages and no plot. You talk about boring reading. You can be sure not one of them read it. But they voted on it. How can you vote blindly like that? And now they've got 383 pages of changes to make. And I also predicted this, and it's coming to pass. I said, watch, they'll do it behind closed doors with a committee. It won't be open to the public. It won't be televised. Nobody's going to know what they're doing until after they've done it. So this morning I turned the radio on. About 6 o'clock in the morning, I think the 6 o'clock top of the hour news, ABC, came on. And they said that President Obama called together 13 Democrats as a committee to hammer out the differences between the two bills and put it together so he could sign it. And I thought, isn't that interesting? A committee of 13 called together on the 13th to the White House. What's with all these 13s all the time? Why did Barack Obama initially pick February 2nd, the witches' Sabbath of Imbolc, for his State of the Union message, and then have a public uproar because it was going to preempt the program Lost on television? The final episode. People didn't want that, so he decided to change his date. Why is it that the government has called together 5 teams of cardiac specialists to be on hand at the State of the Union address to handle heart problems? What's he going to say that's going to cause... Does the Bible say that men's hearts shall fail them for fear? He's calling together all this extra support and these extra teams. You know, these are all signs of the times. There is a present distress. There's a whole lot more than that going on too. And by the way, once they pass this thing, well, it's passed already, but once they iron out the wrinkles and make all the changes they want, then they're going to enforce it on the income tax form. When you fill out your 1040 or 1040A or whatever, you have to prove with your income tax form that you have health insurance. If you don't, you're fined and penalized. How you like them apples? And if you have your own private insurance, that insurance is now going to be taxed. It never was before. They don't have to buy into their health insurance system. They've got their own. You have to take what they give you. And now the company, Applied Digital Solutions, Verichip, headquartered down in Florida, CEO Scott Silverman made the statement that we have now acquired Steel Vault. And Steel Vault is a company that deals with identity theft and data records of all kinds. And they've now put this thing together where they can chip you and have all of your medical records, all of your financial records, your credit score, and everything will all be in one system that has just now come to pass. You can see them working towards something, can't you? We're getting right down to the wire. There is a present distress. I know Joy had given me a picture from the newspaper of a $100 bill, you know, this was in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, with a big owl on the front. Instead of having Ben Franklin there, it was an owl. Of course, on the dollar bill, there's always been a tiny little owl hiding up there in the upper right-hand corner on the obverse side. Not the reverse side, the obverse side. What's that little owl sitting up there in a corner for? He's got to oversee the thing. The owl is always, in the occult, is the messenger. And in Harry Potter, it was the messenger. And the owls in... The witches would always gather and worship the moon under the oak trees, and the owls would come and fly into the oak trees and sit there. And when they'd have a gathering of owls, they called it a parliament. From the Dark Ages even, which is where the parliament of these different countries, the governing bodies, where they got their name from. It was occult to start with. And when they make a motion, in witchcraft, when you make a motion, you set a spell into motion. You say, I make a motion. Did you ever hear that? Parliamentarian procedure? Do I have a motion? Oh, I make a motion. So I second the motion. Second the motion. And they vote on it? Well, in the occult, when you make a motion, you set a spell in motion by doing the incantation, the ritual, and the spell, and rather, is set in motion.